It's the Bruce St. James Show right here on 890 WLS.
Vaccination of employees and how to either encourage it or mandate it. We had that court case just the other day, Judy, that seems to side on the part of employers.
It absolutely sided on the part of employers. It was in Houston where a judge ruled that employees who were suspended at Houston Methodist Hospital, they were suspended because they refused to take the vaccination. That the company, the hospital system, had every right to ask them to. And their defense, that it was like they likened it to being, concentration camp victims.
Yeah, they went Nazi.
Yeah, the judge didn't like that at all. They said they were guinea pigs, and the judge discarded that and said no.
Joel Patterson is a workplace expert joining us right now. And Joel, this court case kind of aside, this is a debate that's happening all around the country right now. And give me some background as to how people are dealing with it.
Yeah, it is definitely happening to just about everyone at this point, and it's a weird topic, as everyone is well aware, because who wants to be responsible for telling somebody that they have to put something inside of them?
Okay.
But on the other hand, you're also, as an employer, responsible for making sure that your other employees are safe, your clients are safe, and so a lot of, especially small businesses, are really kind of wondering, what do we do about this? Whether it's legal to require it or not, it's really more of a culture decision when it comes to your organization and deciding how invasive you want to be with your policies.
Do you think that eventually most companies will be mandating the vaccination for their employees?
I think it's going to be an interesting mix. I think it'll be probably pretty close to down the middle, to be honest with you. You think about schools, all right, and to send your kid to school, you have to have proof of your vaccinations, and it's not that much different than what we're talking about here. Yet people are not. I mean, whether it's politics or whether it's science, I don't know. Everybody has their own personal opinion, but people clearly have an issue with it. And even though the from a legal perspective, it's pretty well documented, and there's plenty of other case history to withhold the what am I trying to say? There's precedence. That's the word I'm looking for. There's precedence. So we know that is going to absolutely be the case in the future, and the businesses can continue to do it as long as they are not discriminating against somebody because of a disability, religious belief, or if they're pregnant. So as long as you're not violating those, then it's within your rights to be able to require it and to let them go if they choose not to do so.
Joel Patterson is a workplace expert joining us right now. It strikes me, Joel, and are we seeing that it might break down by industries as well? While I can understand maybe a hospital mandating it for the safety of literally everybody who sets foot in the hospital as well as their employees, there might be other places where you'd say it's just maybe not as necessary. So, are certain industries more likely to head in this direction?
For sure. I think organizations that are able to support a predominantly remote workforce are not going to be as concerned about the vaccination as those that are maybe in manufacturing and they're around each other every single day. So it's gonna fall into the industry. It's gonna fall into the types of employees that you have and how much they actually interact with one another. You've really got to decide how important it is to your organization to decide whether or not it's worth that argument, because once you start opening that up, you're going to open yourself up to other areas, too. That may have nothing to do with COVID or the vaccination. If you start mandating certain rules, people are going to look at that and say, well, if they're not able to do that or if they're allowed to do this, then what about me? What about this other issue over here? And employers really got to think about how much effort they want to put into that.
So do you think if companies do start mandating it that workers who don't want to be vaccinated will just quit? I mean, do you think there will be a big influx of, unemployed, or do you think they'll probably just get the vaccine?
Well, you might have people that go work for the vaccinated company or people that work for the unvaccinated company, right?
Right. But I think when push comes to shove, do you think workers will get vaccinated if they have to?
It's an interesting point, because right now there is a lot of turnover happening in the world of business. It's weird in that COVID, you'd think people wouldn't want to be changing jobs, but the opposite is happening. Everybody is looking around. It's almost like people have become emboldened, that, all right, I've survived a year of change. Now I can take that and say, maybe I want to go look at something else. Or maybe they were planning to quit before COVID, and they just put that on hold until things got a little bit more settled. But there's a lot of people in certain industries, healthcare, technology, where there's companies throwing around pretty big raises, and it's hard for people to avoid that or to ignore that, and so they're jumping ship. So if you're worried about that in your organization, this is going to be another thing that people can use to say, you know what, I don't agree with that policy, and it's time for me to move on.
Yeah, just add that to the list.
Like with Methodist Hospital just had the experience with, they have to have the policy, but what is the punishment? And in this case, they get fired.
Wow. And Joel, help me understand a little bit. Again, we can even move away from specifically the COVID vaccine. Employers, how much latitude do they have to mandate certain things? I'm thinking along the lines of like drug testing in order to work here or keep your job, et cetera, et cetera. Do they have this ability? Are these court cases going to stand?
Well, for public companies, certainly they will. Private companies have a lot more leeway in what they do and don't do as far as their employee policies. But yeah, I mean, I think this is here for good. Whatever ultimately happens in the courts is going to drive how we ultimately respond to it in public. But I believe, honestly, that organizations are going to continue to mandate it if they feel it's important to their consumers. And there's really not a whole lot that the public can do about it or the employees can do about it except get on board or look for a new job.
And this case in Houston, do you think that's the beginning? I mean, is this where companies may be waiting for some first
like the first
case?
domino?
Yeah,
type
the first
thing?
domino to fall, and then they feel maybe a little bit more secure in mandating?
That's exactly what's happening. They're going to sit back and not invest the funds. I'm sure that most companies are taking a look at their policies and making sure that they understand them and determining whether or not they need an update. But they're certainly going to wait back, let the courts run through the system and see exactly what happens with Methodist Hospital, and then kind of jump on board after that.
Joel, thank you for your time today. We appreciate it. He's Joel Patterson, a workplace expert on your employer, your boss, having the ability to mandate a vaccine.